Good evening, good morning, and greetings. This is Simran Balani from a very beautiful Bangalore saying hello to you to this lovely webinar that we have today talking about a thing we all chase and yet we don't get it always, and that is happiness. And today we have us expert panels who are educators and who are going to talk about what is happiness, unhappiness, and how does it impact them and in the classrooms. So once again, if you're joining us now, a very warm welcome. This is Simran Balani, Pedagogical Director and Workplace Happiness Coach with CCE Finland. And with me, I have a panel of experts who are all educators and our session experts, Mr. Jitesh Khanna, who is a public figure and a motivator. A warm welcome to all of you. I'm also joined and supported by my team, CCE Finland. So usually we go with vote of thanks last, but I want to say thank you to each one of you for making the time, working with us on this particular topic. So to get the evening rolling, I want to start with a quote which I read this morning when I was trying to search about unhappiness. And I really like this one. You can't be happy unless you're unhappy sometimes. And as simple as it is, sometimes unhappiness can also create a lot of burden on us, and we want to shoo it away. We want to put things under carpet. It could be unhappiness, it could be stress, it could be burnout. So today in next 1 hour, we want to find out what are these signs? What are these burnouts? Can sometimes exhaustion be a burnout? Can sometimes detachment, lack of self-care, lack of productivity, anger, being snappy, grumpy, can all this be burnout? So this 45 minutes, we will talk to our educators, understand what has unhappiness meant to them, because it is easy to talk about the joyful moments, but sometimes difficult to talk about the burnout moments that we would have experienced. And I am joined with my colleague Nelly from Finland. And as we are all aware, Finland has been yet again nominated as world's happiest country. So what a better way than to start with Nelly to talk about herself and her country. Over to you, Nelly. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Simran. So yes, hello everyone. My name is Nelly Louhivuori, and I am the Pedagogical Director for CCE Finland. And as Simran said, the timing for this webinar is amazing because just last week, Finland was announced to be the happiest country for the 6th time in a row. And there might be people who do not know what is this World Happiness Report that was released last week. So it's a report that reflects a worldwide demand for more attention to happiness and well-being as criteria for government policy. So it is something that in a big picture, we would like to have everywhere. We would like to have the happiness and well-being in the center of our attention everywhere, in every country around the world. And this report reviews the state of happiness in the world today and shows how the science of happiness explains personal and national variations in happiness. So why are Finns so happy might be the question. I don't know if you know any Finnish people. Usually we hear the feedback that we have stone faces and we're not chit-chatting at all, and people are not understanding how can we be the happiest people if we don't even smile usually. So it is really a good question, and sometimes I wonder it myself also, that how come Finns then see themselves so happy, and what is the secret sauce for this thing? So I think my personal opinion is that happiness starts with the basic things. It starts with healthcare. It starts with poverty prevention and labor market access. And these things we have in Finland and we take into consideration in Finland. And I think that the Finnish society is arranged in a way that allows for happiness. And for me personally, things that are important in a society is that as a woman, I'm able to work. There is affordable childcare, strong maternity rights that make it easy for mothers to have a career in Finland, and also the working life that includes parental leave, flexible hours, and remote work opportunities makes it easy for parents and everyone to combine work and personal life. Also education. I'm from the education field, so that we have the free education for everyone from preschool to higher education. But yes, these are just examples of the things that usually Finns appreciate and make them happy. And that is maybe the reason why we think that we are happy in Finland. But still, even though we have these reviews, we have these reports saying that Finnish people are happy, still I talk with my educator colleagues. I read the Facebook groups, what people are writing, educators, what they are writing online. And it seems that everyone is not happy, even though these reports are explaining one story. And I know that in Finland and also outside Finland, there are many educators at this moment that experience stress, burnout, and they might be looking for other work opportunities. And there are things that affect happiness and create unhappiness in work life. And just to give some examples that I know that in Finland people are suffering for is the workload. It's the inclusion that you have different kinds of learners in your classroom, and still as a teacher or educator, you don't have the tools or you don't have the resources to support all these different learners with their challenges in behavior or learning. And the teachers are not able to do the work as well as they would like to. So this is a really big dilemma in education field. And I'm so happy to be here today to also hear some other opinions, maybe some happiness hacks. What can we do to this thing? Concrete ideas that we can share together among educators. How can we hack this problem, and what can we do to this unhappiness problem so that we could be happy in our personal life, but also in our work life?
Sounds perfect, Nelly. And thank you so much for this insightful detailing, because it is only from the outside that we see that Finland is such a happy country, isn't it? And I'm sure it is. But then again, happiness, unhappiness, and the whole demographic of it is so personal. So on this note, I move to my panelist. And I start with Ms. Shweta Rao. And before I go to her, she has also been a part of CCE Finland's Unlocking Happiness programs of self-care to parenting and self-care to creativity. But on this note, we would want to know about you, what you do, and what does unhappiness feels like, or what is unhappiness meaning to you? Over to you, Ms. Shweta. The floor is yours.
Good evening to all the wonderful, happy people in the webinar. I am Shweta Rao. I am an educator, commerce faculty from Silicon City Academy of Secondary Education, Bengaluru. So I would like to just tell you one thing, that the definition of happiness differs from one person to another. If I find happiness in sipping a cup of coffee, the other one would find it in going for a long drive. So ultimately, according to me, we are unhappy if we do not achieve our little things, our little desires in life. So, and we completely end up in unhappiness, which could result in being in a toxic environment, which could be fear of judgment, which could be I am not able to please people who are around me, or which could also mean withdrawal of normal behavior. Why is Shweta not happy today? Why is she not laughing today? So that means that I'm not happy today. So unhappiness is something, according to me, a phase of our life, a phase of our day, wherein we are not able to achieve what we want to do. So this, according to me, is unhappiness. We lack contentment. Somewhere we are not the same, inside out. That is when I severely experience unhappiness. So this, according to me, my dear friends, is unhappiness wherein I'm not able to be myself, wherein I'm not able to give my content full 100%.
Oh, nice. Very simple, very something that most of us can relate to. It's basically those simple, small things that you're not able to do, and that could probably, get in the unhappiness. Thank you so much, Shweta. Now I move to Ms. Amrit. It has been a pleasure knowing Ms. Amrit, and we have worked on many fronts through the forum of ECDF, and it was my pleasure to have some quality time with her while we were traveling from Delhi to Agra. And I told her, well, wow, whatever you're saying is so resonating with our upcoming webinar. So Amrit, kindly introduce yourself and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I am Amrit Nagpal, and I am an early years expert and an education consultant. I'm also a certified storyteller, and I love telling stories. Recently, I've relocated from Mumbai to Delhi, due to which I had to resign from my previous job because relocation can be very taxing and overloading. So that's the reason I chose to take a break. And we were in conversation during our last trip, and that's when Simran spoke about coming on this webinar. So I quite agree with whatever Ms. Shweta mentioned. So just to build on her idea, I personally feel that whenever we are either overloaded or under-challenged can also be a stress. And under-challenged can also lead to unhappiness. And whenever we feel neglected, and believe me, all these three reasons can happen at work, can happen in our personal life too. Either we are overloaded with work, can lead to unhappiness. We don't have that drive and that passion that we want to do our any field that we are in. If you are under challenged is also a problem, because when we are under challenged, people are not not giving us our chance to live up to our expertise. So it builds on frustration, and again you become unhappy and neglected also, because if you're a part of a group and people don't take you seriously, it could be because of your age, it could be because of because of you lack certain skills, or people value your skills and people feel that your skills are not required here, but actually you feel that yes, your skills can be very valuable to the situation. So I feel all these three things can also lead to burnout at any workplace, irrespective of any profession. And why profession? It could even happen in a relationship. It could even happen on a personal front. So this was something that I would like to, build on to whatever Ms. Shweta said, because I completely agree to whatever she mentioned. Little things create happiness in our lives. So over to you, Simran. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amrit, I did not even think of this point, which now I resonate because you told me so, is that, yeah, sometimes you're under challenged and maybe you're not doing to that full capacity. I'm not sure whether I would blame it on other people, because maybe it could be just you that sometimes we don't have that insight, drive or motivation, but that could also be a part of unhappiness. So on this note,
sorry, just to build on,
yes,
even if you're a manager, even if you're a manager and you're overloading one colleague with a lot of work, or you are under challenging the other colleague, it's still a concern. And you are responsible as a manager or as a head of the department for everyone's happiness, because when you rise up the leadership position, people say your happiness is your choice, but believe me, it also depends on people who you are associated with. So if I'm in a headship position, if I'm a principal or a coordinator, everyone in my team's happiness also depends on my happiness too. So if I am unhappy, it's going to have a ripple effect. If I'm happy, it's going to have the ripple effect. So the choice is ours. Which side do we want to be? So now to understand that choice, these are the three things that we need to understand, even as a leader, even as a coordinator, even as a teacher, because we are responsible for our children's happiness.
Yes. And that's exactly what our second upcoming segment is about. And isn't it well, I mean, if you even look back when all of us would have early on started our careers, and on a lighter note, we would see if our leader, our manager walking into our cubicle and having a very grumpy face, I'm sure he would have had a fight with wife or whatever things at home. But the first instant reaction was, is he upset with me? Or is she upset with me? And now how is my day going to go? So this domino effect of unhappiness, more so now, is much more than what it was before, but it's very, very true. So that will be the second segment that we will talk about, that how does our unhappiness or our burnout have a ripple effect on others. But before we go there, we have Dr. Sri Vidya waiting very patiently for her to introduce herself and talk about unhappiness. Over to you, Dr. Sri Vidya.
Thank you, Simran ma'am. Good evening, everyone on the dais. I'm Dr. Srividya Muthuvel, and I am from Sarad School, Katarits, Pune. Unhappiness is just a thought where we must be very optimistic. Rather, the situations may be anything when we have the creativity to overlook things and be an opportunist rather than, blaming the situations for the creation that is happening due to the situations. We must have the optimistic view rather than the pessimistic view. Rather, I can tell life has given us everything. We must have the vision to understand what are the positive effects, and due to our actions, it actually resonates whether the results will be positive or negative. So, for me, unhappiness is just a quotient. A person, to me, I very firmly believe that a person will be always unhappy if he or she is unable to see the possibilities rather than the downcoming of the situations. So being happy is not difficult to what I say, because we must understand in autumn the trees shed their leaves just to come back. So when trees can be optimistic, so can we. So to me, happiness is a state of mind, and taking pleasure in all the little things that are around us. Thank you, Simran ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And see, this is a total different view of talking about unhappiness and yet having that positivity ingrained in it. On this note, I would like to open the floor for our session expert, Mr. Jitesh Khanna. I want to wholeheartedly thank him because I knew he had a very busy schedule and he accepted this invite and come and talk to us. So would you like to kindly, you heard all of us, and would you like to talk about what is unhappiness? What do you hear from people? What is your personal opinion on that? Over to you, the floor is yours.
First and foremost, my deepest gratitude to Simran for inviting me here to CCE Finland, and to all the wonderful people who spoke. Happiness is something that I've been working on or trying to understand and study for many years. Apart from being an entrepreneur, I'm also into social work. I am also a human rights and happiness advocate. I have a very different take about happiness. I feel one, happiness is overrated. We can't be happy all the time. Two, we dread sadness and failure, but nothing trains us better than sadness and failures. Three, I would go a step further and say that there is something bigger than happiness that is called inner joy. To give an example, you can become happy by achieving some sort of a goal, or maybe getting some sort of a materialistic thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with having more money or better car or a better lifestyle, but they're very temporary. The happiness is very temporary. Whereas a lasting joy in life comes when we are able to go out of our self-centered lives, and move on towards a more people-centric life. The moment we become part of a larger community, a part of a larger goal, the moment we start understanding the basic principles of happiness also has to do with our mind, our body, our health, or what we eat, our gut. So there are a lot of things that is involved in terms of feeling happy or feeling nice. So I completely understand and I completely respect the views that these wonderful panelists have given. But I feel that instead of running after happiness, we should run after a satisfying life where we're able to make use of each day, where we are able to complete some task, where we are able to activate the reward centers of our brain, where we are able to create value in some sort of a way. And I think that's one of the best way to live a very satisfying, full life. You will understand how happy or unhappy you were eventually when we reach a certain age in life, the last phase of our lives. Some people have a lot of regrets. So to have a regret-free life is, I feel, a happy life. And you will not always win. You will not always be happy. You will not always have a sunny day. But the moment you understand this and you develop a very strong core inside, whatever comes into your life, you're able to transform it. That process of transformation, that maturity, that wisdom that comes into your life brings joy. So I always tell people to go a step further of happiness, a step beyond happiness, move towards joy. And that is what I teach children. We usually run after pursuits or things which bring us pleasure. Now, the problem with pleasure is the more pleasure you have, the more you want it. And then you feel dissatisfied, you feel sad. Whereas joy is something that you can constantly feel inside. So that's my small take on things. I'm sure you people have better things to add into it, but I'm so glad to be here and listen to such wonderful people, such learned people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jitesh. And see, this is what is you kind of enlightening us, because you're telling us to embrace unhappiness, which I so agree with you. That because we fear that so much, it is more painful. And also when we contribute to a bigger cause, if I understood correct, the life becomes more meaningful and we see more on the green side rather than what we don't have. So I think, yes, you couldn't have summarized this first segment more beautifully than anyone, that we need to embrace this, have a regret-free life. I love that statement, because that is where we are consciously and mindfully living today, so that we don't have a regret later on in life, as you rightly said, that we feel that at a certain age of life. Great. So thank you so much, Mr. Jitesh, and we will come back to you again in our next segment. So for the next segment, we were going to talk about is how has our burnout, and this is maybe more of a moment of confession, and so that we can talk about this openly and understand that how our unhappiness or burnout would impact the classroom, the student, our fellow teachers, our fellow educators, and even our own family members. So again, I come back to Shweta on this.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for a better platform to share my burnouts, because the most affected ones are our children when we enter into our class. So I would like to share a few things. The thing is that when we are unhappy, when we are not in a good mood, when we are not in a contented mood, we get triggered very easily. A small movement of a child, why are you going out there? Come sit back. What are you doing that? It just triggers us very easily. And the one thing that will easily happen is that we lose connectivity, be it eye contact or subject content knowledge, whatever it is, we lose connectivity in class. Also, we face huge displacement of emotions. So usually two things we usually have as defense mechanisms. One thing is anger, the other thing is tears rolling down our eyes. So basically, we are not in a position to give our best in the class, be it the proper implementation of what we had planned in the classroom, be it content mix-up, be it vague content presentation, or just being not able to do away with our class at all. So yesterday, when I was listening to Nelly ma'am speak, the idea of co-teachers would come as a great help during our unhappiness days. So yes, this is what I feel. I wouldn't be calling myself as an educator or a teacher on the days when I'm unhappy inside a class. So these are the disasters of unhappy days for teachers in class, I would say. So this is
Thank
my
you.
take on it.
Yeah, and it does have that, not only in class. I think if we have had a bad day, the most easiest targets in our homes are our children or our spouses.
Yes.
And then we go back and say, oh, I was having a little bit of a mistake. I'm okay now. So, but then it does. And I have lately been more conscious about who are my soft targets. Soft targets usually are the ones that, you can just let out, be rude, be snappy, because you know that, It's going to be okay. But then
And
that's not right. Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. My soft target is in the session, so he must be listening to this.
That's why I said it's usually the spouses, right?
Yes, yes.
And sometimes I do have this kind of conversation with my spouse too. And he says, then you're going to come back and tell me. I'm like, no, this time I'm not going to tell you. This is particular. So that is all our anger pouring out. And I don't think so. Anger is always about that particular thing. It's always more of a baggage, and it just kind of manifests. And that was the trigger point. And we can go on and on about trigger points. But yes, thank you, Shweta, for sharing that with us. I move to Ms. Amrit to talk about how the domino effects look like of our unhappiness. Amrit, over to you.
So, we've all been educators, and, the first thing that, we learn as educators is that the moment you walk into the school or the classroom, you leave all your personal burdens right outside. That's what I've been telling everybody during all my trainings. Come what may, children come first. You're building a nation. You're building the future of the globe. They're going to be globe totterers tomorrow. They're going to be global leaders tomorrow. And we cannot let our emotional baggage go to them. But, I just building on to Ms. Shweta's thought, what I realize is that we need to keep in self with our emotions and our burnouts. So, the first thing what happens with us is usually starts with the honeymoon phase. Yeah. Little extra work. Yeah, everything will be done. No, it will be done very nicely. Oh, I can handle this little extra overload. From there, you are trying to juggle. And for example, if you turn out to be very good at that work, your manager or your head is going to give you more of that work. So then it keeps coming down to you as a domino effect because you were good at it. You were good at handling pressure. So then you try to balance that act. You try to balance that work. Now, till here, it is still okay because you've learned to balance it. But imagine the day you're not able to balance it. One day, everything is going to come crashing down. All your emotions, all your stress, you may just backlash at people. You may just be very frustrated with the children or parents or your co-teachers or anybody in your school or whether you're working in a corporate, ed tech corporate, you could just lash out on everybody else. So that's how it comes to us. That is what the effect it creates. And last May, we all are like done, burnt out. It's all an emotional burnout. It's a physical burnout. It's mental stress. So for me, what is important is that we as individuals try to understand and realize how much is too much for us. Is my honeymoon wala act of managing stress good? Then that's it. You shouldn't take more workload. You should be vocal enough to say no. Like, I can't handle more than this. There are a lot of times when, especially in early years, we go without co-teachers for a really long period of time. And if a teacher has survived good 3 months, goodness, she's too good. School thinks we've saved so much money on not hiring another teacher. And that's it. So, that it has to, even for an individual, you have to be very vocal to say that, yes, it is bothering me. I cannot take further than this. Because, the moment we are under stress, there is a switch at the back of our head. We know it's going to be just temporary. The moment we realize it's going to be permanent, it's burnt out. Because we all go through that tremor, right? Oh my God, what's going to happen now? This is like a permanent situation. I'm never going to get a co-teacher. What I was promised in the beginning of the year is all like fake. It's not true. And that's where the burnt out really starts happening. So as individuals, we have to keep in check with what is okay with us and how much is okay with us. And we have to be vocal with whosoever is in the environment. Whether it's our colleague, whether it's our senior, whether it's your manager, whosoever it is, we have to be very vocal about this thing so that we don't, lash out on children, because that's going to be the worst thing.
True, so that, Amrit. Thank you, Amrit. And while a lot of earlier educators are nodding, I'm sure some principals are giving you, what is that? But yes, it's an eye-opener, and it is a right time, and especially for early years. because this is a trend when the teacher is able to manage, and it is always that honeymoon phase in any relationship, whether it is work, friendship, or whatever. When it dies down, the real colors come out, isn't it? But yeah, are we conscious enough to see that? Because yes, initially we want to take a lot of work. And are we also okay to talk about, this is what is on my plate, this is what I can do best, and this is something, or probably sometimes I have seen that some of the over enthusiastic workers never ask till when is this due, or when do you want this, right? Yes, you go very true. So we never ask by when do you want this? Like if I am earlier, so going on the same example, and I have certain activities that I'm doing in the class, and at the same time, some of the lesson plans or paperwork is due, I need to stop and ask, when is this due? Is it like urgent, and what is the level of priority? But anyways, I will now go to quickly to Dr. Srividya. If you want to add, have you ever seen this kind of burnout or stress that your teachers might be having, and you can see that in the classroom? Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, ma'am, definitely I have seen this, because recently I was a school innovation ambassador in my school, and it was introduced by CBSE. So at that point of time, we had to nominate around 5 teachers, and nobody was willingly ready from their end. So the principal had to come and talk and give some doses, and then get the work done out. But I was the one who willingly proposed this plan to the school, and this happened. So I'm very happy that the principal understood the importance of the School Innovation Ambassador program to be implemented in our school, and then getting 4 more teachers nominated and getting work done from them. Normally, teachers are in basic, what we say, happy to go zone, that, we come to school, be part of the textbooks, and instruct the children and scold them, at times, at moody times and all, and just go back. And it did happen with me. They were like, Srividya, they fanatically talk behind me. Srividya, I think we think that you do not have any work at home. I told, like, everybody does have work, but we are here to serve our nation. That is why we are in a noble profession. And what best we can give to our children will be counted in our karma. And plus, we are here to create the leaders of the nation. We cannot create the doers. We must create the creators. They must have the confidence to create. So basically, this programs actually entitles and gives ambition to the child to become an entrepreneur, the future entrepreneur. So I even took an online entrepreneurship program regarding the same, where the prototype and the prototype was produced to CBSE and Udyam Foundation. And out of 25 children, 17 children's prototype was being selected, and it was been published in 100 innovation ideas. So moreover, I work upon my children, because I understand if we create leaders, we will be the safest.
I think we've lost her. Dr. Srividya, are you there? Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. There is a call. Sorry, ma'am.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So parent leaders is our prime perspective, and I'm working upon it. Thank you, Simran, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Srividya. And sometimes it is so rightly said that we might be the only smile that the child is having during the day, and maybe they would have had a chaotic morning or a bad night. On this note, I move for this segment to Mr. Jitesh Khanna to talk to us that you would have, in your sessions, and when you talk to so many people and educators, you would have heard people coming to you, or you probably would see the burnout. What do you talk to them? What do you tell them, so that this domino effect is not there that we were just talking about?
So after hearing the 3 panelists, I've actually realized that we need to formulate better policies for teachers. I, first of all, have a lot of gratitude for a lot of teachers who during the pandemic had no online training. They were taking care of their families, and they had commitments, and yet they were trying their best to have the best online classes. So my first and foremost gratitude to them, and I feel there should be more better policies for teachers so that there is less burnout. What I understand from burnout is that when you keep doing something again and again and again, which which you're not somehow able to enjoy, or it becomes very stressful, it starts taking a toll on your mental health and later on to your physical health. So I think the best possible way to avoid a burnout is to basically maintain a very healthy lifestyle. also to be in the profession when you really love the profession. And I really understand the point where one panelist said that you're doing it for nation building. So I think that's one way of looking at it. The moment you look at something with a grander purpose, automatically there's a sense of joy and a sense of purpose and a sense of mission comes in, and that also helps you enjoy the process. But having said that, to handle a few people is easy. To handle a class of 50 children, naughty children, is not easy. Trust me, I've had first-hand experiences of being with so many children, and I know how difficult it is to handle them. But having said that, I really feel that we need to formulate better policies for teachers. We need to formulate. We are very focused on formulating policies for children, having better mental health for children, having counseling for children. But what about teachers? A happy teacher from this session, I've realized, will make a happy class. A happy class will make a learned class, and a learned class will make a better society. So this is in fact rather a takeaway for me. Whenever I will go back and be with policymakers, I would definitely like to speak more about better working environments, better policies, better schedules for teachers, better way to lower the burden so that they're able to enjoy, they're able to give their best, they're able to have smiles on their faces, and in children, and in turn we have happier classes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And that would be wonderful, because when we talk about these webinars, we also want to talk about making a change. And through you, if we are able to communicate that there need to be better policies for teachers, and so true that we need to also look at teachers' well-being, because one of the things that CCE Finland recently did when we were opening the schools post-corona and we launched for creatively rebooting schools, one of the aspects that we looked into was teachers' well-being. And that's how self-care to creativity programs came in. But that is only one school where, Finnish pedagogy is being implemented, and another one maybe where it will be. But it has to become a part of natural process, like there is policy for children and eventually even policy for parents, because parenting environment, also their happiness and the way they are having the home environment affects a lot to how the children are developing. So thank you so much, Mr. Jitesh, on this. And now I go to Nelly. Nelly, would you kindly share? So we now talk about almost the last segment of our program, is that what are these happiness hacks, or let's say mantras, or some kind of doable stuff that we can do to manage this burnout, this unhappiness or stress, whatever term you would like to call. Nelly, over to you.
Thank you, Simran. There has been really good conversations about the education field and the state that education has at this moment. And post-pandemic, I think there are many teachers that are still suffering from those months of online teaching, remote working, and the teachers still also see those effects in their children, in their classroom. And I just want to give my example, what helped me. And I think teachers' work is so unique, because even though you have your work community around you, you still work by yourself in the classroom, and you are the only adult many times with the children. And you could also say that it's a lonely work, and you would need more pairs of hands and ears and eyes to be there with you, to help you in the everyday life. And the hack that helped me a lot was co-teaching, that was mentioned in the conversation earlier. In my school where I used to work, I had the possibility to work with one of my colleagues, and we put together our classes. And for me, it gave me so much meaning. It brought so much more meaningfulness to my work when I had another adult, a companion there with me to share the workload, give me mental support, help me with the challenging situations, and also to be there with me to reflect about the ups and downs that we experienced every day in our classroom. So for me, that gave more meaning when I had someone there also to have my back. And when we talk about this unhappiness and happiness, of course, in everybody's life, the days are different, and it's so important to to have support. And as a teacher, you might not always get so much support or feedback of your work because you are by yourself in the classroom. So I think really one good hack, happiness hack, is to have this co-teaching system in your school, to have more people, more adults around you to share the everyday life with them. So this is my example that I wanted to bring because for me it was life-changing.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nelly. And for the audience who was there with us and even for the panelists, please do look up. We have amazing programs on Unlock Happiness, which is self-care to creativity and self-care to parenting. And also Nelly's program on co-teaching. So these programs have made real-time difference, and that's how you see it on website, because we believe that it should be from courses to implementation. Otherwise, that program is not beneficial. So thank you, Nelly, for sharing those insights. And it does make sense that if today I have had a rough morning or a rough day, and no matter how nicely I have been able to manage my emotions, but maybe that day is not for me, and having a co-teacher can go a long way to manage that day for me. And, and still the core factor, children are taken care of and they are having a normal day and are not affected by the teacher's mood. So thank you, Nelly, for sharing that. And as we come to this last segment, I move to Shweta. Shweta, do share what is your happiness hacks and any new normal mantra that you would want to talk to us about. Over to you, Shweta.
Yes, ma'am. So I would definitely second Amrit's thought on voicing out what you feel. And I do remember from Simran ma'am's sessions and one of the sessions at school from our wellness coach, it's okay not to be okay. So it's absolutely all right to be unhappy. And
now I don't have a mantra to share. You've already shared it for me.
I'm sorry about that.
No,
I'm just recollecting your sessions. So it's okay not to.
Shweta, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, as we all talk about the domino effect, the cascading effect of happiness or unhappiness, we all know that it's contagious. It's a global spread like the coronavirus. So you can spread happiness and you can also spread unhappiness. So what I feel is that you need to come over what you're going through. You need to move on. You need to distract yourself, and you need to make a deliberate effort for making happiness pervasive all over and all around us. So just a few things, what I feel. I think like Jitesh rightly said, we need to be healthy, be fit, to be able to take control over our emotions, over our mind. So we need to meditate well, we need to nap well, and we can use music as great mood changers. So one of my favorite songs can go on and on and on repeat mode for a very long time until I ensure I'm happy at the end of it. So this is one of the hacks that I feel. The other thing is, I think we need to socialize well, to be able to share, to be able to vent out, to be able to have a change in the environment. So that is one hack that I feel is very helpful. And we need to practice gratitude. We need to practice selflessness. And we all need to compare ourselves with someone who's below us rather than comparing to someone who's above us. To count our blessings is what I truly feel. I think that is one of the paths to reach happiness. Also, we need to develop being dynamic, to be able to be flexible, to be able to be adaptable, to be able to switch over very quickly, so that we are not in the same stage of being unhappy for a very long time. So that's why when we catch a quick fever, they say, get up and go have a run, just because you're not going to sleep for the entire day. So that is one thing. And also, I also believe in cultivating meaningful relationships, which actually leads us to having a happy life, rather than getting into some relationship that is not even going to help you, that is only going to cause you a lot of sorrow and unhappiness. And finally, I feel that we're all working hard to make a living rather than making a life. So be happy and always keep smiling. Have a smile on your face is what I feel. This is my hack for happiness.
Thank you so much, Shweta. So a couple of things, though I agree to whatever you said and I resonate on most of the things, but the only one thing, and I actually started writing this blog and I'm yet to finish it, is that it's okay. I'm all for being grateful, but I think while we are being grateful, we should not lose out on having that magic of wanting more, because that keeps us going. So yes, we need to be grateful. Yes, there are a lot of people, who are not as privileged as we are, and that's good thought to have. But at the same time, it is very important that we always have that magic of wanting more, aspiring more, because that keeps us going. And as Amrit said, not under challenged. So thank you so much, Shweta, for sharing these hacks and mantras with us. Over to you, Amrit, quickly to talk about your happiness hacks or any mantra that you would want to talk about.
Thanks, Simran, but I will not wind up very quickly. I have a few things to say. Firstly, I completely second to whatever Mr. Jitesh mentioned. I completely agree with having a policy for educators to be happy, and there should be ways to make us do that. But just adding on to that, I truly believe and understand that, especially in our country, the earlier sector is slightly underweight. So, Mr. Jitesh, if you know a couple of policy makers there, please, I think that's a very valuable point that you should take it up with the policy makers. If you need somebody to second you, third you, fourth you, we are ready behind you. Okay, because there will be a lot of people coming forward for this. And I think both these things go hand in hand. Now, coming to whatever we are talking about a mantra here. So again, Ms. Shweta, I completely agree to whatever you have said. So just building on from there, I personally feel that when you voice out your opinion or voicing out saying that I am burnt out, I am stressed, I am unhappy, it is completely normal to take a break, a vacation, a time off, whatever you want to call it, from your work. Now, it depends on what level of burnt outness are you. Are you in the honeymoon stage or the balancing stage, or you're completely burnt out? So if you're completely burnt out and you want to take a break, it should be normal. It should be the new normal. Whether you take a 3-month break, 6-month break, 9 or 12 months, it should not affect your future job or your career ahead. Because when people want to swap or shift to another place or another job or a school or an edtech or another corporate edutech company, the first thing that the HR is going to ask you is, why is there a gap on your CV? And I feel that even for HRs, even for human resource people, it should be the new normal. It's okay to take a break for X number of reasons. I could be tied up with a personal thing. I could be tied up with something professional. I'm generally burnt out. And that should not be taken as an excuse not to hire you. So this is somewhere, as a society, as a team, where we really got to work and understand why are people quitting jobs. Now, I'll just like to share an incident here. I have been working very closely with a couple of edtech companies. And, we all know that this is the financial year ending. In the last 10 days, I have heard 5 people resigning. Now, these 5 people come from edtech companies. They have resigned because they have felt burnt out. And they are resigning very close to their increment. And I feel that is not right. It is an alarm that we have to realize. It's a very big red flag. When people want to resign just before the time of their appraisal, that means that they are burnt out. It's not because they found a new job or they're moving somewhere else. So I feel this should be taken up very seriously. The same goes with teachers. We do find a lot of teachers resigning or shifting jobs just when the school wants to finish their academic year. It could be a reason being because they are burnt out. A lot of teachers do want to swap or shift jobs because they feel extremely burnt out in that current school. So that should be taken, discussed, and it should not be taken as a thing that you cannot get a new job again. So, as a community, we need to understand this thing. So as a community, we need to understand that we need to not only build on relationships, and as a community, we should understand that we should always have one colleague to go on and say, I feel burnt out. I feel unhappy in this situation. Can you help me? And if you can't help me, at least hear me out. Because the moment you have somebody who's listening to you, I think 50 to 60% of your problems are solved. You automatically start getting questions the moment you feel that you're being heard. Now, when I mean being heard, I don't mean somebody giving me suggestions. I mean, just listen to my problem. Because I think most of our problems come from that nobody is listening to our problem. So that is something that we need to focus on. Again, that should be a very serious mantra. So we could, have places or people in the school setup or in the edtech setup where you have some kind of a human resource just listening to your problems. I'm not asking for solutions. I'm just saying, listen to my problem and listen to why I'm feeling burnt out. The moment I release my frustration, I could be fine later also. Also, another important mantra that I would like to tell everybody is that keep your work at work. With the new boom in India, with the new edtech industry coming in, and there are a lot of corporates coming in, I have a lot of friends, colleagues who keep telling me from the industry, we get calls at 10 p.m. We get calls at 11 p.m. for an email. This work culture has to change in our country. This work culture was never ours. If there is a certain time slot, if in this country we work like 8 to 10 hours or whatever hours that we're working 9 hours or 10 hours in the corporate sector, the work should end right there. Because whatever you do, schools are shut in the night. You can't do anything if there is a problem. If there is a parent who's coming up to you with a query that blah, 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 I have a problem with this teacher, or I have a problem that my teacher didn't hear my child out, that can wait till next morning. And you could have a face-to-face discussion with the parent and get sorted out, get all your miscommunication sorted out the next morning. You really don't have to bother anybody, a teacher or anybody at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. in the night. And this is a very common problem in our country. I see a lot of early years centers complaining that, we get calls from parents at 10 p.m. in the night or 11 p.m. in the night. I think we all need to be very mindful about these things. So work needs to be kept at work. And a lot of responsibility has to come from that principal, from that manager. I'm not saying that I'm not going to listen to you. All I'm saying is that there is a time to do certain things. If I'm at home, it's meant for family. If I'm at work, it's meant for work. And that clarity and times has to be understood by all of us and mindfully done and respectfully done also. So that's all that I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much for putting all these thoughts. And I think you've left a very strong message for human resources in education or otherwise, that do not stigmatize, do not put a label just because somebody has taken a break. All right. That doesn't, just because they have taken a break, that doesn't take away their knowledge or experience for those few months or few years. I think they have done a very bold thing by taking a break, and they have done a favor to themselves, their families, and people they were working with. And they should be taken back with due respect. And I also, I'm glad you mentioned about boundaries. So there is a beautiful way of laying out boundaries at what time we can attend to queries and what time we cannot. And there were days where there were no WhatsApps. Right? WhatsApp can be a friend, and WhatsApp can be a big stress factor too. Yeah, I know those whole world of blue ticks and response kiya, nahi kiya, and all of those things, right? And then these parents, and I'm sure parents, especially earlier parents, are more anxious. I think that's why one of the things that we consciously do with our schools is parent workshops and parent sessions. So we answer their why, what, and how before they come in. And that's a good place to talk about boundaries, why teachers need these boundaries. So thank you, Amrit, for sharing all of these things with us. I move quickly to Dr. Sri Vidya, your some of the happiness hacks or any mantras that you would want to talk about, and then we wrap the session. But we have something very special before we wrap the session this evening. Yes, Dr. Sri Vidya, over to you.
Thank you, Simran ma'am. My special mantra would be, our passion must fuel the purpose. That is what always I speak to my children about in the class. We discuss about academics, but apart from it, what is the need for the survival in the real life, in the market, is the necessary component for why a child is getting educated. So the purpose, the passion the child has in her or himself, that has to be, fueled up, that has to be found out and given a direction. I have always, supported my children in believing in themselves. That is the first hack for happiness. What we say for happiness mantra that I would propose. Because if a child is confident and if a child believes in himself or herself, the half of the war is won then and there. If the purpose is clear, the child can be indicated, to follow certain ways and procedures in order to, approach the goal. For example, we can take Neeraj Chopra. The javelin throw is not a form of a sport that is very prominent in India. Yeah, right. We all will accept that. Cricket is one of the sport that has a separate fan base. But what I teach my children is Neeraj Chopra created a demand. There is a demand for cricket, right? But he had the determination to create the demand for his own sport. That is fueling his passion and believing in his dreams, apart from understanding what the market demands. He did not run behind money. He made his passion come true and made the people also believe that it is not only the cricket that could, be put up into your screens. It could be javelin throw as well. So our children are especially psychologically different from each other. So my mantra would be, if we, are successful in arising 10% of their passion and make them follow their dreams, they will be the leaders of their own world. They would create their world. As very well said, Elon Musk did not go to any university or college in order to build his own space station, right? So he read everything. He, served the internet for the right cause and purpose. And today he is because he wanted to be. It is not because anyone pressurized him. It is not because his teacher told him. He knew what he wanted because he understood his grandfather had designed an aircraft just because he wanted his family to take into a vacation. He did not have money to travel, but he designed the aircraft and they traveled freely. So this particular idea, when he had taken from his grandfather, he believed in himself and he had put forth, right? So I believe, taking such examples and putting it into the children's head that we must have the confidence in believing ourselves. The happiness in their faces and hearts, it reflects and shines through their faces, They come and tell me, ma'am, this is my passion, but I have obstacles, parents do not support me. So I told, अगर ये नहीं होता है तो फिर प्रॉब्लम है, हो रहा है ना. So where we have to find a way out where a child has to prove the ability to the parents, and that will happen only when the child is made to trust and believe in himself or herself. So the half of the war is won, and if the child is designated to achieve the goal, the happiness is going to spread across. As we know, the creators are more happy than the consumers. Thank you so much, Simran.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sri Vidya. And I appreciate that you shared all of these points with us. And the same needs to be inculcated to the teachers also, because only when teachers say this, the students will follow. So I now go to Mr. Jitesh to share his happiness hacks that he would have wanted to share with all the educators here. Over to you, Mr. Jitesh. The floor is yours.
Right, thank you. So I heard most of the educators, and especially I could really relate to what Amrit was saying. I would share my happiness hack as a common man, as just an ordinary person, not as a teacher or as an entrepreneur. And I think there are a few basic things that we need to that I have to share with you guys. First and foremost is, have you noticed that when we are sitting in an office cabin, we are usually fantasizing about a vacation? Oh, I wish I was in Goa. Oh, I wish I was in Switzerland. I wish I was in Finland. and when we are working, we are thinking about these things. And when we are at a vacation, we are worried about our work. We are worried about our bank balances. We are worried about paying our checks. So we are never here. So I think our first and the foremost hack is being in the present moment, right here, right now. Lao Tse, he said that when you live in the past, you have grief. When you live in the future, you have anxiety. But when you're in the present moment, there is peace. So first and foremost hack is being in the present moment. Yeah. Second hack is that you become a part of a larger community. We are social animals, and one of the biggest pandemic, apart from the COVID virus, that I can see all around the world and in my sessions also, is loneliness. People are very lonely. Even a teacher who's working very hard is not being appreciated, is not being understood, and like Amrit said, is not being heard, is lonely. You cannot share your things. One of the things that I was taught was when you go and meet somebody, just zip it up and listen to that person. Just by the virtue of listening to someone, the person would went out, the person would feel better. And it's the same thing applies to you. You go out and you speak out, speak your heart out, and you share your things. So that is very important. When you're part of a larger community, you take care of other people. You become part of a system, you're part of a community, you're part of a greater goal. There's a sense of belonging that comes. That sense of belonging takes away loneliness, and that brings a lot of joy. Most of the time, when we don't fit in schools, I've seen a lot of children are very unhappy because they're not part of some group, or they don't have certain friends, or they're lonely. I think that's a big problem. And a lot of times, this education policies and this policy and that policies overlook that, and that's a very grassroots problem. Now the problem is we look at the larger things, but the smaller things, which are the core, are not taken care of. And I'm telling you from my own personal experiences of meeting children and talking to them, and I've realized that one thing that comes out of their life is they're very lonely. So I think we need to tackle one of the greatest hacks that we can develop for human beings is each and every individual can be taught to be part or made to be part of something bigger, a part of a community, a part of a group, a part of a cultural activity, a part of a sports activity. You will see that person's stress levels going down, the person feeling worthy, the person feeling happy. Uh, third problem with our society is that I've realized is we live in a very superficial society. The more toys you have, the more titles you have, the better you feel about yourself. And I think that's another pandemic in the making, because your comparison becomes greater and bigger and bigger, and you compare yourself to every other person. And a comparison is the thief of joy. So one of the greatest hacks that I always use is I never compare myself with anyone. I am myself, and every day how I can become a better version of myself. And yes, I have made a lot of mistakes in my life, like everybody else. But when I look back, it was a learning process. And in that learning process, if I am coming out as a better person, that's wonderful. So that's my third hack. I don't compare myself with anyone else. And the fourth hack uh, that I always nowadays been talking about a lot is the right amount of food right kind of food that we eat. Do you know that our gut is our second brain? So taking care of your own gut, exercising, because when we release endorphins, we feel better. Having staying away from toxic people, boundaries. Somebody talked about boundaries, and I think that's the most important concept in our country. Somehow, our culture doesn't understand boundaries. Everybody wants to introduce someone else's life. The principal also wants to know what is happening in the teacher's personal life, which is not her job. Or the teacher wants to really want to know what is happening in other person's life. We need to have boundaries. We need to understand that our life is our life, and nobody has the right to introduce it unless until we open the doors for them, and we want them to hear us out and non-judgmentally. So these are few hacks that I follow in my life, simple hacks, scientific hacks. I do believe in philosophy. I do believe in the power of religion, philosophy, yoga. I believe in the power of art. You can use art as a medium to be happy. Somebody said they play music to feel happy, and I do the same thing. But I want people to understand that the very pursuit of happiness sometimes can make you very unhappy. But rather than that, following these little things and working on making a better society, that's very important. A society which is in our society, I think the most important thing now is that we need to get over this thing that somebody is wonderful only because somebody is a topper in the school, or is amazing at sports, or is amazing at debating. I know so many people who were good at none, turned out to be the most wonderful people. So we need to love the individual for what he is, accept his ordinariness, and understand that sometimes ordinary people do extraordinary things. So these are little things that I always focus on, work on, talk about. to create that kind of awareness in society. We are so obsessed with success. We are so obsessed with productivity. We are so obsessed with creating these clones of children, which would be amazing, would be the next, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Why not create the next Gandhis or the next Mandelas or the next, why not create such wonderful people who are more empathetic towards other people? So I think it all starts with us. My own happiness depends on the choices that I make, and also depends on how much I cherish the people in my environment. So that's very important, cherishing everybody in our environment, being very grateful for things that are there. So I've been talking a lot of off-track things, but these things are very core to my own philosophy as a person. That if I really want to see people happy around me, I have to be happy. My happiness will also reflect back in my environment. Have you noticed when the central figure of the house is anxious, children become anxious, everybody else becomes happy. So you developing yourself into a person with a strong core, a person who understands life is going to be ups and downs, and it is how much belief that I have in myself. I still remember Swami Vivekananda once said that you can believe in a million gods and goddesses, but if you don't believe in yourself, there is no salvation for you. So you believing that you can bounce back from anything, that's extremely important. That's something that I believe in, that I would fail at times in my life, which is normal, natural. And I don't care if somebody doesn't validate me. I don't need their validation. I have to validate myself. End of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, did I look back and live a courageous, fulfilling, satisfying life? Was I able to reach out to other people? Was I able to earn trust and respect and love? That's extremely important for me. That's my happiness hack. Every time looking at my mortality and knowing that I have very limited time, and I have to really, really understand that every day counts and every day is very important. And this sense of urgency that is there, that's the reason I always go out and speak to people. Yeah. So these are the things I can go on and on about this, a subject very close to my heart. But just summing it up, that happiness, you needed to go a step further and move towards joy. Joy is this inner happiness, this inner sense of satisfaction. If happiness was there in money or status or success, we would have not seen successful people killing themselves. Suicides are very common with successful people. So that inner happiness, the inner sense of well-being is extremely important. And a lot of these wonderful panelists spoke about such amazing stuff. It was such a learning process. I think that is also happiness. When you lower the bar of your ego and your intellectual arrogance, and you are open to listening to everyone and learn from them, I think that itself brings a lot of joy in our life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jitesh. And I'm sure you have left each one of us very motivated to move from this whole happiness to joy. And I thank you. And I thank each of my panelists and the audience members who are there today. And before we go, and we've been talking about happiness, and one of the key factors that we talk about in social emotional learning, especially at early years and the age of children, is that we talk about if we want them to be happy, we want to work on their social happiness, social emotional happiness. So on this note, we at CCE Finland, the entire team, is extremely happy to pre-launch this workbook, rather a learner's workbook, called as Etiquette Learning and Public Speaking. This is a complete book based on research from 2016 till date, and it talks about the activities that are needed to live a global life that we want our children to strive for, because we keep saying we want them to become global citizens. And we talked about empathy. We talked about mannerism. We talked about being mindful to our choices and other people. So it's my privilege and honor to announce this pre-launch today of Etiquette Learning and Public Speaking. And this will be on our website soon. I have with me Miss Nelly, Miss Shireen, who are going to take a minute. And of course, Mr. Jitesh will wrap this up about this book, because they have been a key part of the peer review in these books. So Nelly and Shireen, if you're there, over to you to talk for a minute about this book.
Thank you, Simran. Just quickly saying that as a teacher, these skills that this book represents are crucial for the children and for the future. nowadays, when we have online, we have all the information that you can just imagine. Really, the access is super easy, and that's why sometimes it's so important also to think about the role of school nowadays, because you can find the information so easily online. But there are certain things that you can't learn from the books and you can't learn online. But you need more help from adults or teachers or people that have experience in empathy or in these kind of skills. So how to act in social situations, how to communicate in a positive way, how to build positive relationships around you. These books is right. It's in the core of these questions, and it's so important when we think what kind of skills we want to teach to the children. So yeah, just super proud of Simran and happy to be part of this project. And yeah, that's what I just wanted to say, that the importance of this book it's huge. Thank you, Simran.
Thank you so much, Nelly. So just a glimpse about this book. It has over 30 activities which can be done over a period of academic year or a calendar year. And it has the real life connections, role play, stories, and making a goal, and the child and the parent, teacher doing self-assessments and peer assessments. And this book will be formally launched in our creativity conference that's going to happen in Finland on 21st of April. What we are showcasing now is a pre-launch offer. And for the educators out there who want to avail of this pre-launch offer, my colleague, Mr. Sameer, has already put a link so that you can read more about this book and understand how you can avail of this offer. And to sum it up, Mr. Jitesh is also one of the esteemed book reviewer for this book. And over to you, Mr. Jitesh, to talk about this book. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simran. First and foremost, I'm extremely grateful that I had the good fortune and the opportunity to read this book before most of the people could. And one thing that really struck me was the amount of research that went into it, the amount of hard work that went into it. And I completely agree with Nelly that there's tons of information available online, and that is the reason people are mixing up things. Books like these are extremely essential for children to have a wonderful way of having consolidated knowledge of these activities, of these things that are there in the book. One of the things that really is close to my heart is global citizenship. And such books are extremely important because children need to go above this bar of being from so-and-so community or a city or a country, and rather look at a very global perspective and making a global change. So rarely I have seen a book which is backed by so much of research. There have been a lot of books out there in the market, and more will come, but very few are there with so much of research and so much of hard work and so much of love put into it. I don't want to give spoilers, and I don't want to share more about the book. I want people to read it, because if I'm vouching for it, it's because any book that is backed by so much of experience, so much of research, so much of love, so much of hard work, and so much of focus is very essential. And I think since the link is there, I would really request people to go and check it out and order the book. Thank you so much once again for giving me a glimpse of this book before anyone else. I'm very happy, and I would recommend this book to a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jitesh, for your kind words. And I'm so glad that you took the time to review this book. And once again, as I said, this book is going to be available as a pre-launch. And thank you once again to all the panel members and audience for joining us on this Unlock Happiness. And I hope we can reconnect in about a couple of quarters down the line and end our year with the same panel and say, hey, we talked about all of these things, and what did we do with the happiness hack? So we are going to keep this group alive that we have, and hopefully we connect before we wrap up this year 2023. And I wish you all well. Have a lovely evening, and thank you once again for your time. This is Simran Balhani signing off from Bangalore CCE Finland team. Thank you very much. Have a lovely and pleasant evening. Lots of love to all.